Measles, a very dangerous disease that has to be treated right now. It's incredible to know the amount of cases, the amount of suffering, the amount of death that this disease has brought. All of this because of the lack of knowledge of the people, because of the lack of medical support, because of the bad treatment that the people are receiving. In this chapter, we're gonna show you what will happen if this disease is not treated appropriately, and what will happen when the disease is treated appropriately. Hope you enjoy.
Hi, my darling. Today we're gonna see Mom because she feels very sick.
Okay, Dad.
Hi, you have something to eat?
Sorry,
Please.
I don't have any money.
Please,
I'm so busy,
don't
sorry.
leave.
Let me pass.
Please, 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 please.
Are you okay?
At that time, they didn't know that encounter would change their lives. Ten days later, he started getting hives. His head started to hurt. He had high fever and his eyes burned. The symptoms had begun to emerge.
Hi, doctor. Yesterday, my son started feeling some symptoms that I don't know what it is. He had headache, also he had dry eyes, and he have a high fever. I think it was of 40 degrees.
Hi, how are you? These can be symptoms of a lot of things. You come from Nigeria, right?
I am of Nigeria. Why?
Because take into account the symptoms that your son is having, and that the most recent cases of measles come from Nigeria, I can infer that what your son has is measles. This is a very dangerous disease if it is not treated right. That's why I'm gonna have to ask your son to stay with me for this week to see what's happening.
What? How did this happen?
Did you have any contact with someone that had this disease on the past 10 days?
I don't remember. Oh yes, I remember. We were walking in a street and a beggar asked for money and he called in my son, but
Does your kid suffer from another disease?
he suffers of tuberculosis.
What? This disease has to be solved right now. If not, this can be mortal for your kid and for everyone that surrounds him. The days passed. Edison was trapped in the hospital. No one was attending. He seemed lost. His symptoms were getting worse. But no one took care of it. They didn't care. They didn't care about the life of this poor kid. They didn't care about the life of anyone. He was dying. He was slowly dying. And it could have been the worst death of them all. His family didn't know what was happening. They thought he was having a good treatment. They thought he was being happy. He was going to go home and be brand new. That wasn't the thing. He was alone in his room, suffering, having pain. He didn't know what was happening since he was a kid of 5 years old. This shows how bad the treatment of a hospital can be sometimes. 1 week later, his tuberculosis was killing him, and the symptoms of the measles weren't stopping.
Oh, ugly butt.
While the doctors were trying to find a cure for this disease, they didn't take into account the worst part of it, the tuberculosis that was beside them. His tuberculosis was getting worse, and with the dry cough of the measles, he was losing so much blood, and his lungs were getting worse, and he was about to die.
I feel really bad.
No! Hey, don't! No! We lost you! No!
This is what really happened on his body. When the beggar coughed at him, the pathogen of measles got in throughout the respiratory system, and that caused the first line of defense. Because the first line of defense didn't work, it was time for the non-specific action of the second line of defense. What the second line of defense is supposed to do is to increase the temperature of the body so that the pathogen can't reproduce, therefore it starts to die. In the case of this patient, the second line of defense didn't work. This means that the high temperatures of the body did not kill the pathogen, and these high temperatures are just killing the patient. And because the patient is a person that has not developed the third line of defense, they don't have a cure. He will just slowly be dying, and all of this would come to a sudden death. All of this was because the patient didn't have a good treatment, didn't have doctors that recommended him what to do, so he died. This disease does not have a solution. If the vaccines were not applied before he got infected, and the patient has not developed the third line of defense, this disease can be very dangerous. Why are the vaccines important? The vaccines are important because what they do is that they bring an inactive virus, in this case of measles, with some antigens. And this creates some antibodies that kill these antigens and that end up killing the pathogen. The pathogen will die. This will create an immunity on the body. This means that when the virus gets in the body again, the body will already remember, will already know what they did to kill that pathogen, and instantly the pathogen will be dead, and none of this would have happened. This is an example of what would have happened if the vaccines were applied. If this happened, you wouldn't have measles, and the tuberculosis will be the only preoccupation. He will be obviously have a risk, but it will be much easier to take care of because there's only one problem on his body. That's why, in conclusion, the vaccines are important, and the vaccines do make a difference. So, when you take care of someone, make sure that they have the vaccines so that they can be safe.